What is up, guys? It is your boy Nai and I am back with another video. If you are new here, my name is Nai Murray and I am a first year medical student going into my second year at the University of Central Lancashire in the UK. Then again, if you are new, consider subscribing to my channel. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Give this video a big like, big thumbs up. When you like the video, it tells YouTube that, look, this video is fire. Put it at the top of the recommended list. But anyway, straight into the video, I'm going to be talking about how to choose the perfect university accommodation. This video applies to all uni students, but is mainly focused on people who are intending on studying in the UK. The first thing I want to start by speaking about, the 5 main tips I have, or like the 5 criteria rather, that you should consider when you're choosing somewhere to live for your university life, for your university experience. The first thing you want to think about is the location of where you're going to choose, right? It sounds like a given thing, like obviously you need a good location, but why? I'm going to talk about that. So the first thing you want to think about is your proximity to your uni. If you're in your first, second, in fact, any year that you're starting in, you want to be close to school. You want to be close to uni, close to the uni facilities. That's just going to make your life easier. I don't even have to explain that, right? You just need to be in a good position. You don't want to take too long traveling back and forth, and you don't want to like be too far from facilities like the library or like lecture theaters, all those kind of things, because you want to be like, for example, I used to go to the library at like 2 a.m. in the morning or till 2 a.m. in the morning. Imagine having to travel from the library back home and it's like a 30-minute trip or an hour. Like, makes no sense. All right, so the second thing you want to think about is you want to be close to all the important places, which are like the train station, the bus station, hospitals, shops and stores, malls, stuff like that, entertainment as well. The list goes on. You really just want to be close to like all those important places. You don't want to be too far from them, otherwise it'll be way too inconvenient for you. And yeah, you're trying to make everything easy and as convenient as possible, I think. The third thing under location is security. You do not want to compromise on security under any circumstances. Like, that's the most important thing. You don't want something bad happening to you just because you chose to live in a place that was probably cheaper or nicer but didn't have good security, right? You want to have 24-hour like patrolling happening there, or like security around all the time. Cameras as well. You want to be in a place where there's like CCTVs and all that. I mean, these should be, the basics of what you should be looking for. So make sure like you've got those criteria checked up, and I think you'll be good to go. That's it for location. Next up is quality. You want to make sure that wherever you're living is a place that's got a good quality, interior, exterior, everything. Like, you just want to be in a place that was well built, a place that's really nice to live, because remember, this is going to be home for like quite a long time. You want to be coming home to like a decent place. So yeah, quality is essential. When you want to find out what the quality is like, read up reviews, look at pictures, as many pictures as you can find. Try and look up like videos posted by people who've lived there outside of what they advertise on the site of the accommodation you're looking at, because that's usually more honest. So yeah, go on YouTube, go on the internet, anywhere, just look up the place you want to live and look for videos and stuff and pictures so that you can see what the actual situation there is like, because you don't want to get catfished, right? So yeah, quality is not really debatable. You just have to have good quality wherever you're trying to live. Cost. Cost is a really big factor, I think, when you're choosing accommodation. It should be one of the leading factors, because like you can find 2 places that look exactly the same and you'd find that the prices can differ minimally or drastically depending on what you're looking at, right? So you want to make sure you get the best cost that you can. And you want to be cost effective, but don't be cheap, because cheap is expensive in the long run. What do I mean by this? When I say cheap is expensive in the long run, I mean that if you make cheap decisions, or decisions that help you save money a bit much to the point where it's a bit drastic, you end up costing yourself more in the future, right? If you compromise on a place where it's probably like half the price but there's no security, you could get all your stuff stolen, and then that double price you'd have paid somewhere else would have covered that, and you wouldn't have lost as much. So you can end up losing more if you like try and save too much. So obviously be cost effective, compare prices everywhere, make sure you're getting the best deal, but at the same time, don't be too cheap about it. Yeah, it'll cost you in the long run. The next thing you want to interrogate when you're choosing a place is amenities. What do I mean by amenities? It's a bit of a fancy word if you ask me. I'm talking about stuff like laundry, entertainment, concierge, stuff like that, like facilities that the place has, or gym, Wi-Fi, all that falls under amenities, right? So depending on what you prioritize, make sure you look for that in the place you're choosing, right? So just look, usually it's in the description, they'll tell you what's there. So yeah, you want to have a good place to do your laundry. If you're an active person like that, you want to have a place that has a gym. You can find places like that. You want to have a concierge as well. Concierge is something that's really important for me because it's basically like the accommodation admin or support staff that stays there, and they help you out a lot, because like in cases where you might need help with something, or something's broken in your room, God forbid there's an emergency or some sort, they're on the ground there to help you. Even simple things like half the time parcels are being delivered to me, I'm not in my room, so they usually collect where I used to live, rather they would collect the parcels, sign them off, and then I collect the parcel from them afterwards. So things like that, I used to get a lot of things delivered, and they used to help out a lot. Obviously things like Wi-Fi, like just a given. If it's not there, you're being scammed. I don't care where you live. If it doesn't come as standard, there's something definitely wrong there. But yeah, prioritize the stuff you want. Some people like a lot of entertainment, so maybe there's some places that have like good social spaces and stuff that comes with that. So give that a look and choose what best suits you. And final thing I want to talk about is the contract you get when you book an accommodation for your semester, for your academic year, is something that's really important. I didn't know about this. I didn't even look at it twice when I saw it, but now I know that it's actually more important. I wish someone had told me the same thing, right? So I got like a 42-week contract, which was like I think 2 to 4 weeks longer than I actually needed, because I wasn't going to stay in school for a long time after exams finished. So what I did was I just kept the contract. I didn't try and adjust it in any way, because once I agreed to the terms, you can't really change it, right? So what you really want to look for is a contract that's within, I think, 2 weeks of the amount of time you're planning on staying there, right? So let's say school closes on a certain date, you want to like have your contract just extend maybe a week or two after that, and nothing more, because some people end up getting like contracts that are like 4 weeks to 10 weeks longer or shorter than they need, and then it just gets sticky when you don't have a place to live. Inversely, it's a bit expensive when you have a contract that's letting you live somewhere but you're not there, you're not in the country, or you're not in that place for that time. So you really want to strike that balance, get a good contract. You can usually negotiate with whichever accommodation service you're dealing with, and they will cut it down or extend it accordingly. If they're not willing to do that, try and get another place. If the same thing happens, then you might just have to stick with that contract, but make sure you get a decent contract wherever you want to live. And that's about that. Those are the 5 things I think are like key when it comes to choosing an accommodation. But then there's different types of places to live. How about that? That is the second part of this video, so stick around, because now I'm going to speak about the different types of accommodation available in uni. Anyway, just continuing. So the different types of accommodation that are available are the following 4/5. The 5th one is kind of covered in one of the 4, but it's slightly different, which is why I'm just going to give it a bit of room. So the first type of accommodation I want to talk about is university halls of residence. I think it's the easiest to organize. It's like simpler because you're doing it through the uni, so they'll handle all the logistics and the technical stuff for you. All you have to do is really just pay and agree to their terms, right? And it's the most social one, I think. In terms of adjusting into the uni environment, you want to be around people who are like you, trying to get used to the place, trying to make new friends, so you'll be around a lot of people. I know that, definitely. And it's always close to the uni. So it's always close to the uni, close to the uni facilities I talked about earlier on, and that's just really convenient, especially when you're starting out trying to get to know a place. That's really key. I think the uni halls of residence are also usually the most cost effective. They're usually the cheapest option in most cases. I'm not saying it always is. There's cheaper options in some cases, but most of the time they're like at the lower end of the price bracket. The cons of living in a uni hall of residence is that usually, since they've been around, most of them have been around for quite a long time, so you'd find that they're a bit backdated. They're not the nicest looking places. Not that they look bad, but you can just tell that the age has taken a toll on them. And they're usually smaller. You usually find yourself sharing a room with other people, sharing a bathroom, sharing a kitchen, things like that. Yeah, if you're not the kind of person who likes sharing stuff or you like your space, then maybe you might have to consider other types of accommodation. The second type of accommodation I want to speak about is private halls of residence. So I think this is like the updated version of uni halls of residence. I think that was like the model they took when they were building these things. And yeah, they're like similar, but obviously they're private owned, so they're not affiliated to the university, and you most likely won't hear about them right off the bat. You'd have to look for yourself to find them because the uni doesn't really endorse these places. The pros of these: you're always gonna get a larger room. I think when you go private, you're gonna get a larger room, nicer space, better looking room as well, and most likely you won't be sharing too much. So you'll probably have your own bathroom and your own kitchen if you opt to have that. And yeah, sort of like some of them come in like sort of like flats kind of, with like a lot of people sharing. Some of them come with a single room. The cost is up to you. That's when you have to choose what you're really looking for. The cons of private halls of residence: the fact that they'll most likely be further away from the uni than the uni halls. So there's a bit of a distance you have to think about and bear in mind when you're choosing. Make sure like you're not too far as well. And they may be slightly isolated. If you're not sharing or not in a flat with people and you're like in your own just room, like a studio with your kitchen and your bathroom in there, you might not get to interact with people as much as you would when you're in a uni hall. But some people prefer that. I mean, your room is not, well, like the place you live is not the only place you're gonna interact with people. You're in uni the whole day anyway, so that could be that. But like some people prefer to live in a place where they're easily gonna bump into people, speak to people, socialize and stuff like that. So I mean, you still can, but it's not as open or as social as a uni hall of residence. And that's about that. The cost of private halls is much, okay, not much, it's usually slightly higher than the uni halls, so that's something to take in mind as well. Think about that when you're choosing. But I think these are some of the best places to live. That's where I'm moving into for my next academic year, for my second year. And yeah, I've seen the place, I really like it, and I like the setup. So yeah, I highly recommend that. The third place you can live is a private rented house. You might think, how am I going to rent a house as a uni student? But you actually can, and there's a way that they've organized it. So I actually didn't even know this existed, but I found out about it when I was doing some research, trying to get a better place to live. And it's basically a setup in which you and like 3 to 4 friends ideally would move into a house that is sort of like adjusted to cater for uni students, right? The houses are usually slightly big. The kitchen will be big. You can have your own bathrooms, and it's got a lot of bedrooms as well, and slightly large living area like a lounge and all that. And this is like your chance to live with people that live with your friends as a group in a house, and you can live in a quiet residential area because obviously it's a house. It's not as busy as like where you'd find uni halls or private halls and stuff like that, or like apartments. So yeah, it's a nice quiet residential area. They're usually further away. These are the cons now. They're usually further away from the uni, so there's quite a bit of traveling you'd have to do if you're gonna find a nice place. Not to say you can't find one closer to uni, but from my experience, they're usually slightly further away, probably the furthest when it comes to the types of accommodation you can find. And obviously you're having to share some stuff as well, but if you're with the right people, I don't think it'll be an issue. But you have to just bear that in mind. In terms of cost, it can be cheaper because you're splitting the rent between 4 or 5 people. So it could be cost effective, and the utility bills are covered as well in that. So you're kind of good. You don't have to deal with paying for your water, heating, stuff like that. It's all covered in your rent, and it's quite a cool thing that you can do. But as usual, it has its own people. As always, rather. There's a certain type of people who'd prefer that. The fourth and final type of accommodation, which I think is quite well rounded, or the best all round, is a private rented apartment. It's really nice to have an apartment. I think it's not as big as a house. It's not too small, like just one room, but like you get a bedroom usually. Obviously apartments different, but this is like the basic standard. You get a room, a kitchen joined to a lounge, or a kitchen and a lounge, and a separate bathroom. So it's like probably the biggest of all the options if you're living by yourself or with like another person. Normally 1 or 2 people in an apartment. Yeah, it's you've got everything is private. Obviously you've got your own laundry, you've got your own bathroom, own kitchen. You don't have to, if you're a person who doesn't like sharing things at all, get a private rented apartment. Yeah, and usually the costs aren't as high because it's rent and you're paying it monthly, not weekly, as with the other options. So like, yeah, when you're renting, it's usually like, it could be cheaper. It depends really where you find. The only disadvantage I think with apartments, and the reason why I kind of stayed away from them, is that like it's a bit harder to organize, and you need to be like you need to have planned for it like quite a lot in advance, because you have to get in touch with the letting agent and do that whole type of thing where they pull up an agreement, you discuss the terms, and then you become a tenant. And obviously there's stuff like council tax you have to consider when you're doing that. Obviously with like private halls, even sometimes you do have to pay council tax. But yeah, you have to think about your council tax and your utility bills. That's all on you. Water, heating, electrical, you're paying for that by yourself, and you have to get your own Wi-Fi installed in some cases. So yeah, there's a lot to think about, as well as like furnishing the apartment. Sometimes you can get an apartment that's not furnished, so you have to buy furniture for that. So like it's a bit more complicated. It's I think it would be more long-term kind of move, like a 1 to 2 year kind of tenancy would be ideal, because you're getting furniture and stuff like that. So it is more complicated, but like once you've got all that out of the way and you're an organized person about it, it could be a really nice day. And like, you know, you can have people over because there's more space, and it's just a nice place to have, just depending on the location. And as far as distance from like uni goes, literally it varies. It could be close, it could be far. You just have to be smart about it. So yeah, guys, those are all the types of accommodation that I know, and that I think are like the most significant, the popular ones that people choose from. Special mention goes to homestays, which is basically when you move in with a family, sort of like an exchange student type of thing. You move in with the family and they basically take you on as their own, like, you know, child, and you're living with them whilst you're going to uni. I don't know too much about it, but I think, you know, the pros would be something like it's a home environment. If you a person who gets homesick, or you like just being in a home environment, that could be the one for you. But like the cons obviously are you're living with the whole family, and it could get complex if you don't, you know, adjust to them well. So yeah, that's a special mention. I think some important things to note on the side obviously are always read up reviews of the place you're trying to go into. Read up as many comments, find out what people think about it, people who have lived there, because those are the ones who will give you the most honest information. Yeah, so all these you know, accommodations, they're not likely to like publish bad things about their places or whatever. Like these services won't go on there and say our hall of residence is really cold during the winters, you know, but like a review could tell you something like that. So, you know, read up the reviews, always really important. And another thing is always make sure you're dealing with regulated services, regulated agents, certified agents, because you do not want to get scammed. A lot of people get scammed when it comes to all this, especially international students, and you know, you don't want your money to go to waste. You don't want to get in a sticky position just because you try to get a cheap place to live, just because you try to get a cheap place to live, or like a really good deal. So yeah, just do it the right way. Moving away from home is something that's really tricky, or could be really tricky. So the reason why I'm telling you guys about all this is so that you make that transition from home to school or to uni as smooth as possible. Get the best place to live, have a lot of fun, be comfortable, and you know, keep it that way. Guys, if you are new to this channel, like I said before, subscribe if you like the content. Give the video a big thumbs up if you liked what I talked about, if you benefited, if you learned anything, if you got any sort of value from this video. Smash the like button, because that will help me out, and I would highly appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And yeah, it's been Nai. Stay moving, stay booming.